We've had some pretty bad zombies endings over the years, but I think the one in The Reckoning takes the cake for the absolute worst. As we all know at this point, The Reckoning ending makes the entire story up to this point just kind of feel like it's been for nothing. And I don't mean just the Dark Aether story, I mean the original Aether story too. The ending we got in Tag, where all the characters nobly sacrifice themselves in a very emotional ending, is kind of just completely ruined by this ending in The Reckoning. So let's take a look back at two of the most influential endings in the zombie story, those being Tag der Toten and Forsaken, to find out, does The Reckoning's ending really make them all for nothing? Now let's start off with Tag der Toten. Now, despite a lot of the community really hating this ending, I am a big defender, and I personally believe that this is one of the best endings we've ever had in COD Zombies, and I think it is honestly the perfect ending to close off the Aether story. The ending does a good job of giving true closure to the zombie storyline for the first time, and really only time ever, by confirming our suspicion that it is our 8 characters, Primus and Ultimus, that are perpetuating the multiverse and perpetuating the chaos and the cycle, and that is the reason that it keeps going, and therefore the reason why they must die in the end. And by once and for all actually killing off these characters and closing down the multiverse, it is a true bookend to the story. And I think this is where a lot of people's problems with the ending come in. And it's not the fact that the ending is bad, it's just the fact that they really don't like that they killed off these characters in this way. But the way I see it is that getting an ending like this, while bittersweet, is a lot better than not having an ending at all. A story that just keeps going and going, getting worse and worse as it goes, is just not very fun to watch. So I think letting these characters go right at their happiest, all gathered around a campfire, while it's solemn, I think it is the best option for this story. The other thing I love about this ending is that it really feels like you get true closure from it. It's a 7-minute long, emotional masterpiece of an ending that really gets you to think about all these years you spent with these characters. And then to top it all off, you get this really wicked gameplay sequence right at the end, where you get to play as Samantha and Eddie walking into the new pure universe, free from the shackles of the multiverse and the cycle, as our 8 OG characters talk about their wants and dreams after all this is over. It's just such an emotionally satisfying ending.
Let me think about it. Wherever I go, you know I'll be kicking ass.
Not to mention, it kind of just appeals to the side of me that loves tragic emotional endings to stories. Now, the most important thing to glean from this ending at this point is that Nikolai specifically says that everything from the multiverse has been banished to the Dark Aether. Now, does that include our Primus and Ultimus characters? Well, kind of, but not quite. These Primus and Ultimus characters that we played as, with all their memories, the gameplay that we had with them, everything that happened through the story, they are dead. They are forever dead because they were killed before they could even be banished into the Dark Aether. These versions of the characters will not be coming back. So that begs the question, who are these characters that we saw at the end of the Reckoning cutscene? And a lot of you were quick to point out in my last video that these are not in fact Primus, as well they look nothing like them. And that is true. These are not Primus, and they are not Ultimus either. There's some in-between version of the two. Now, when it comes to multiverse theory, there are hundreds of thousands of millions of infinite possibilities and multiverses out there, which means there are an infinite amount of our characters out there from different universe, different timelines, and different versions. There are millions and infinite different versions that are not the characters that we played as, not Primus and not Ultimus. And I think what we're seeing in this new game are different versions that we have never seen before, ones that were not killed at the end of the Tag ending, but were just part of the infinite multiverses that were collapsed into the Dark Aether. They don't have the memories exactly of our original characters. They are totally different characters that are just simply versions of our Primus and Ultimus crew. But what does that mean for Tag's ending? If we can just bring back any version of the Primus or Ultimus characters from different universes, doesn't that kind of soften the blow of Tag's ending and make it kind of all for nothing, or feel much more meaningless? Yes and no. I personally think it makes it a lot more meaningless if we can just keep bringing back characters from the multiverse, and I think that's an inherent writing flaw of multiverse theory itself. However, it does not completely ruin the blow of Tag's ending, because these are fundamentally not the same characters. The same reason it was still emotional to lose Richtofen in Blood of the Dead, which was because that was our Richtofen who was the nicest one, the one who cared about our characters, the one we've been been playing as the whole time. And the new Richtofen that replaces him from a different universe, he's just not the same guy. He may wear the same face, he may look the same, but he doesn't have the same memories, and he's not the same fundamental character. And that is what is so emotional about losing our Primus Richtofen in the Blood ending. And I think that still stands here in the Tag ending. Those were our Primus and Ultimus characters, the ones we played as, the ones that have all the memories of the multiverse, the ones who caused all this to begin with. Those characters that we love so much are dead. These new ones are just different versions wearing their face from different timelines that have pretty much nothing to do with these same characters, which makes the Tag ending still meaningful, but like I said, the fact that it's a multiverse itself does soften the blow a bit. What this really is at this point is just a reboot of our characters once again. Just like Origins was a reboot of our characters, this is once again now the third reboot of our original characters, and to be honest, more than anything, I'm just getting tired of it. Let their sacrifice mean something. Stop bringing them back. But it's not just the ending of Tag der Toten that the Reckoning kind of ruins, it's also the ending of Forsaken, and I actually think the ending of Forsaken and the Dark Aether story as a whole has been ruined a lot more than the original Aether storyline and Tag's ending. By banishing everything to the Dark Aether in Tag's ending, we are left with only two original characters from the Aether storyline, and that is Samantha and Eddie. And Eddie being our only Richtofen in this storyline. We don't need more. The fact that we keep bringing back the Primus characters once again just shows that we have no confidence in the direction of this new story. For all of its flaws, Cold War Zombies did an amazing job of setting up a very lore-rich, in-depth storyline that set up this mysterious director character as the new villain of the story. Someone to be feared, someone who's going to be very interesting, and I was so excited to learn more about them throughout the Cold War story. And then to have this amazing reveal, although easily predictable, it was still a great reveal. To see Eddie as the director in the Forsaken ending was so cool. And I was super looking forward to Black Ops 6 to see where they would take this. And to see that they would take it pretty much nowhere and just end it after the end of Black Ops 6 with no more story for the director Eddie, and to get rid of him for an older, different version of Richtofen once again is such a disservice. I think the Forsaken ending is easily the best ending we've ever had in COD Zombies. Not as a conclusion, because obviously the Forsaken ending isn't concluding the story, it's just an end to the chapter of this story and a continuation to show where things are going in the future. But with that lens, I think the Forsaken ending is easily the best we've had in Zombies. The setups and cliffhangers of arresting the Requiem crew and us wondering for years what was going to happen to them and how that would be continued to the next game, and the ending of the cutscene showing Peck go to the certain island and setting up where the next map is going to be, teasing that. Very, very good stuff. And not to mention, of course, the Project Janus director Richtofen reveal. So damn cool. All that stuff was so well done to an amazing soundtrack and an actual lengthy, good cutscene that concludes the events of Cold War while setting up what's coming next. And I think that's the biggest problem with the Reckoning cutscene, is that it barely concludes what happened in Black Ops 6, barely gives any closure to what happened throughout the whole story or close any plot threads that we had throughout the game, and then just drops the ball and gives us this weird teaser for the next game in a cutscene that only takes like 1 minute. What a far cry from the 7-minute long cutscene we had in Tag and the 5-minute long cutscene we had for Forsaken. Two amazing cutscenes that really have been let down by the Reckoning's end cutscene. When I watched Tag der Toten's ending, I felt an emotional sadness but narrative satisfaction to the end of an over 10-year long story. When I watched Forsaken's end cutscene, I felt satisfaction to the end of the Cold War story and hype to see where things were going next. When I watched the Reckoning's end cutscene, all I felt was disappointment. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please make sure to like and subscribe. I will be making much more videos on Black Ops 6 and Black Ops 7 Zombies in the future. Be sure to stay tuned, and I will see you soon.